Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Canterbury. And I am Christine. I'm a second year University of Kent student.
And I'm Andrew. I'm a final year at the University of Kent.
Yeah, and we have an exciting program ahead of us. We have Nay back with us to give us a talk on real uncertainty, and after which you guys have a chance to ask her questions again through Slido, YouTube, Facebook comments, all of them. And then in the end, there's the Slido code. And in the end, we will be announcing the £20 Just Eat voucher winner. And I'm definitely looking forward to finding out how many masks there were in that jar because I couldn't figure it out. So whoever figured it out, good on you. Like, seriously.
But first, we've had a would you rather question running on our social channels throughout the day. So let's take a look and see what people thought. The question was, would you rather have a vague plan for each day or a specific plan for the rest of your life? We got the results in, and it's 60% in favour of a vague plan for each day. I don't know if that's a surprise to you, Christine. What do you think?
I mean, I'm definitely with vague plan because I can't physically do timetables. I've tried so much. The amount of paper I've wasted making timetables is ridiculous. I most probably am the cause for some kind of deforestation at some point. But yeah, and I can't. So I guess I'm definitely with the vague plan. I like to go see where it goes. What about you, Andrew?
I don't like the fact that I'm with the minority, but I'm definitely with the minority. I love a specific plan. And I like a timetable. Like, if you see my room, I've got calendars and I know exactly what I'm doing to the hour, to the minute. No, I definitely like knowing what I'm doing. I like a specific plan.
Nice. I do sometimes wish I was like that. I really do, because sometimes my week just goes haywire and I have too many things planned at one time. And there are times I wish I had a timetable, but then I make the timetable and then I throw out the timetable. So I don't know.
It's a blessing and a curse.
Sorry?
It's a blessing and a curse at the same time.
I know. I think we need to find like a middle ground, like where we can make a plan and also have, because I would enjoy like spontaneous trips. Like, 1 hour we're sitting at home and another, let's go to the beach. Yay, let's go.
See, I wish I was more like that. I wish I was more spontaneous, but like at the same time, I just love a timetable. I love knowing what I'm doing next.
Oh, yeah. That's understand. I actually Googled the meaning of vague to understand, and it says not clearly expressed. So it does not mean that we don't have a timetable at all. We have like some kind of a plan that we're able to throw out. So maybe that's a good thing too.
There's definitely a middle ground.
Yeah, there's definitely a middle ground. I guess we're middle ground people then.
Brilliant.
That's option C, everybody, middle ground.
Yeah, we're going with option C. Brilliant. Now we have an interview from a University of Kent graduate who will be talking to us about how their faith has helped them through uncertainty and graduating in a COVID world.
Hello and welcome to our interview for this evening. This evening we are going to be interviewing Hannah. So Hannah's going to tell us a little bit about herself, and if she had, would she rather have a vague plan for each day of her life or have a specific plan for the rest of her life?
Hello. I'll start with the question because it's difficult. I didn't think about it enough before I got here. But I think it's vague plan. I think, vague plan is way more me. But yeah, a bit about me. So I graduated in 2020 from Kent Uni with a degree in the history of art. And since then, I've been working as an artist in Canterbury, living with some other students, some other ex-Christchurch, well, actually current Christchurch students doing their teaching. So yeah, that's me. I'm kind of floating in between things at the minute. At the minute, I'm just applying for like grants for artist stuff and thinking about the next steps. So yeah, that's me.
Fab. could you tell us a little bit more about what you have been doing this past year, as it's been a bit of a different one?
Yeah, so specifically, so I left uni and I was like, I don't really want like a normal job. I want to just do my art. So I'd run an exhibition and been part of exhibitions at uni. So I just started trying to sell my art. I started doing street portraits. I got in contact with a good coffee shop that I've been doing those at, and I made my rent off that before lockdown in December. November, December time. And then in that time, I printed some Christmas cards, made some money from that. And since then, I've been doing sort of commissions. I've done a shirt for Everpress, just trying out tons of stuff. Really, like it's been quite stressful because I don't have a 9 to 5. I don't know necessarily that I'm going to get my rent on time. So I do break into savings and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much most of what I've been doing. I bought myself a pair of roller skates as well, so that's my recent hobby that I've taken up. But yeah,
yeah, I love seeing like you know, on like TikTok and Instagram, like people like roller skate like really cool dances. I want to see that from you, Hannah.
I want to see that from me too, but we'll get there.
Yeah, guys, and next year Hannah's going to be roller skating all around Canterbury, so watch out.
Yeah,
so you kind of. Yeah, you kind of mentioned a few challenges. So, like, I guess, yeah, can we dive into them a bit more? Like, what's been really hard for you this year?
I think I had some really low mood actually over Christmas and New Year. I haven't struggled from that sort of low mood for a very long time. Like, I think sixth form I was that low, but it was the not being able to go outside because of lockdown that really got to me. In the first lockdown back in March, it was slightly better because I had my dissertation to write. So it was kind of forcing me to write my dissertation. But yeah, I got really low around Christmas time and moving on to the new year. Also probably to do with like seasonal stuff, but it was just really tough because I didn't know where my money was coming from. I was the only person in my house. Like me and only one other girl were going to be paying council tax, so that was stressful to think that I'd be paying all this money, and I didn't have any guarantee of being able to do more portraits or being able to do more collaborations. A few exhibitions I was going to be a part of got cancelled, so just instability. It was like I was trying to stand up on top of a swimming pool, like that there was no chance. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And that instability is like really, like, must be really scary. Like I know what I would do without uni work right now. Like it's the thing that I have. So I can imagine that's been really difficult. So what's been like kind of getting you through that? Because obviously you're still here. You seem relatively happy. So what's been getting you through these times?
So the first thing I did when I got really low was I dropped most of the stuff I was doing and went home, which was a lot of help. So I'm still at home now. This is Northamptonshire. I've got my cat sleeping on my bed, which is nice. So home comforts and not having to pay for food has been really useful for me to just work on projects and stuff for the future after Corona. That's been really good. Also, I go to a growth group with people from my church every Monday, and it's really like it forces you to open up about your feelings and to have good relationships with people. Because when you get low, it's the top of your list is not speaking to your friends, and it really should be. You should be working on those relationships and leaning on them for support. And having a group that I felt I sort of had to go to meant that, oh wow, yeah, I actually need this. I'm not just going because I have to. Like I need people to support me because I'm not okay. So yeah, that was really useful.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's so great. Like I feel like we touched on this on the first night, but community is so important right now. Like I think finding that where we can, and it's so great that you've been able to do that. So my final question is, how do you think this year would have been different if you weren't a Christian? Kind of maybe your outlook on the year, your feelings, just generally.
Yeah, I think it would have been vastly different. I don't know if I would have had the confidence to not just get a stable job I don't know if I would have had the confidence to just go for it with my art. I don't know if I would have had as much people interested in my art, because a lot of people from my church commissioned me to do portraits and stuff. So, and like I was saying just then about growth group. So growth group is a meeting I have with some people from my church who are like, we go through a Bible passage together and we just open up about what our problems are and we commit them to God, because whatever's happening is part of God's plan.
Yeah.
He knows better than we know about our lives. And if you feel like I felt so many times like I don't have any stability, there's no stability, I just think, well, I do have stability of my salvation, which is assured because Jesus died on a cross, and that happened years ago. And like that's a definite that I know that God loves me, and that I'm forgiven, that I'm his child. And like I pray so much. I pray I pray every day, but like you send little ones up all the time, like just God help me with this. And in my darkest moments, like I can ask someone to pray for me, and that doesn't rely on me being in a spiritually good place. It relies on them, and knowing that other people are praying for you. Like when I went home, the church was praying for me, and it's like it's the most incredible knowledge to have, like that people you know and love you enough to talk to our Creator about you and ask that you're okay. And yeah, there's just so much confidence you can have that God is in control, no matter where you are. Like there's a reason for it. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you so much for being so open about the uncertainty that you're currently facing.
Wow, it's so interesting to hear how Hannah got through that with her faith. Really interesting to hear from her.
Definitely. Yeah. Wow, that was very encouraging. So, hi, Nay, welcome back.
Hi,
so good to have
guys.
you back. Yeah. And so again, after Nay's talk, we have the Slido code there, so you can enter the code either through the website directly, or there's a Slido app which you can download. And of course, comment on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everything. Just let us have it. And yeah, Nay, before we let you start the would you rather question, weight plan or a timetable for the rest of your life? Which one is it?
Oh, timetable for the rest of my
Oh.
yeah, 100%.
I couldn't agree more.
Sorry, Christine.
It's okay. It's okay.
I was with you on Monday, but not tonight. Not tonight.
Well,
With
we've
butterflies.
got butterflies together, so it's fine. All right then. Well, take it away, Nay. Was looking forward to hearing from you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And it's really great to be with you all again. I've no idea where you're listening from across the UK. If you want to pop in the chat, I'd love to see where you are. We know that some are in Canterbury. I live down in Southampton with my husband and 2 kids. And it's really great to be with you tonight as we're thinking about this massive and current topic of uncertainty. And if you've not had chance yet to put in the chat, please, could you have a go at answering this question? What are you uncertain about? Because we want to make sure this topic's relevant, right? We had a few responses earlier, so thanks to those that put in. And if you haven't yet put in, please add what you're uncertain about. So people have said things like how the year ahead will go post-COVID. Couldn't agree more. I put the question in, when will lockdown end? Thanks, Becca. She put, when can I hug people again? So anyone else listening, what are you uncertain about? We would really love to hear from you tonight. I was reading about a guy called Jim Dickinson, and he says the only certainty is uncertainty. And I would say that you as students know that probably more than anyone else. Looking at the year that you've had, the A-level results, the uncertainty of returning to university, whether courses will be in person or online, whether you can go back home, whether you can come back to university. There is so much uncertainty for the average university student. And I would love to know how that makes you feel. So thanks so much for putting in the chat what you're uncertain about. But how does all this uncertainty make you feel? Apparently there are 3 or 4 categories of people in how they've responded to COVID. Some are bored in terms of responding to the lockdown. Some are bored of the lockdown. Some are burnt out because of the lockdown. Others are having a breakdown because of the lockdown. And some, I'm not quite sure who, see it as a blessing. But how does lockdown, how does this uncertainty make you feel? Please pop in the chat function for all of us to see. Or we've got some more coming in about what you're uncertain about. Thanks, Angus, Emily, Lion Blossom, Johanna. These are the things that we're uncertain about. But how does this uncertainty make you feel? Because it makes me feel pretty anxious, if I'm honest with you. I've got 2 kids. And in January, we just kept thinking, will they go back to school? The start date was January the 6th. And by January the 4th and 5th, we were thinking, surely the school can't cancel at this last minute. 3:30 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, before they were meant to go back to school, we got a message saying school's closed for tomorrow and probably the rest of the week. That kind of uncertainty makes me feel really, really anxious. I'd love to hear how it makes you feel. Thanks, Becca. Agree with feeling anxious. Thanks, Emily. Feeling unsettled and out of control. So we've thought a bit about what it is that makes us feel uncertain, whether that's when we'll actually see our family again, when we'll see our boyfriend again. Thanks, Claudia. What I'm going to do after graduation. Will there even be any jobs? Emily says uncertainty about university placements going ahead. There is so much uncertainty. I think the only thing we can be certain of is uncertainty. And tonight I want us to think about this topic from a Christian perspective and look at what Jesus says into this. But before we do that, I want to tell you a bit about my own story and my own life. I grew up in a single parent family. And for those of you out there like me, you'll know the uncertainty that that brings. Maybe not for all of you, but we had serious financial problems. My mum and my dad, they didn't resolve nicely. So there was huge family tensions. My brothers were fairly out of control at different points in their life. And we were in a really middle-class, suburban, large village where no one else had parents that were split up. And so I felt pretty odd compared to everyone else. But the overriding feeling was uncertainty. Would we have enough money to pay for things when they got broken? Would we have a family argument on Christmas Day? Would we survive another long holiday? Would we have enough money to buy clothes when we needed them? We lived in this state of uncertainty. And I think for me, as I look back, there was one promise that was my rock, because I couldn't hold on to a mother or a father that would always be there for me. I couldn't hold on to friends that would always be there for me, or siblings that would be there for me. But at the age of 7, I was really grateful for the opportunity to find out about the person of Jesus Christ. And from a young age, through my teenage years, the words from Psalm 18 just came truer and truer. And those words say that God is our rock, our fortress, our refuge, our strength, the one in whom we can hide in, the one who is our refuge and our fortress and our strength. And as a child growing up as a teenager in a very unstable, uncertain family, I found that God was a complete rock to me, a fortress, a refuge in whom I could hide. And I wonder if you know that God tonight. I wonder if you have experienced God in that same way that I have. And I would love to commend you that if you haven't, to look into the person of Jesus. But I don't want you just to take my story. I want us to look at who Jesus actually is and what he says about uncertainty. So we're going to have a little look in Mark's Gospel. It's an eyewitness account of Jesus' life. If you've never read it as a thinking adult, then I recommend you do, because how can you reject something that you've not looked into? On the screen, we're going to have a bit from Mark's Gospel, and I'm going to read this to you. This is a story with great uncertainty, and then I'm going to spend a bit of time just talking about it afterwards. That day when evening came, this is Jesus talking, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind them, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." So I don't know if you've heard this phrase that describes COVID and lockdown, but often people say that we're all in the same storm, but we're in very different boats. I don't know if you've heard that phrase about COVID. And what it's saying is that we're all in this massive storm together. Never before in our lifetime have we experienced such suffering, a pandemic which just makes us so scared and so frightened and has disrupted our life in so many ways. We are all in this storm together, but we're in very different boats. And by that, I mean, maybe you're someone that is bored tonight. Maybe you're someone who's having burnout tonight, or someone that's having a breakdown. Or maybe you're the lucky person that's actually been really blessed by this time. And there are some out there. It's the same storm, but we're in different boats. And tonight, my big question to you is, which boat are you in? And so I want us just to look at this story briefly, because there's lots of boats in this story, and there's also one massive storm. So first of all, when you have a look at this passage in Mark 4, you see that it was evening time. You see that there were loads of boats around, that there was this furious storm that had come up. I want you to imagine the worst storm you ever can. Imagine being in a small boat at that time. The waves were breaking over the boat, and the boat was completely swamped. The details of this show that this is a memory of somebody. This is not just a fabrication, because why would they put all of these unnecessary details in? And whilst this storm was happening, whilst these boats were being swamped by water, Jesus was asleep on a cushion in the stern of the boat. And I wonder if tonight you feel like in your storm, Jesus is just asleep on a cushion in the stern of the boat. You see the disciples say to Jesus really clearly in verse 38, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" And I wonder if that's how you feel about God tonight. God, don't you care that my university life has been wrecked? God, don't you care that my father-in-law has died of COVID? God, don't you care that my neighbor has cancer? God, don't you care? So they say to Jesus, "Teacher, don't you care?" And I guess it could be the same question for us. God, do you really love us? Do you really love me? You knew that going to university was really important. You knew that having a job after graduation is really important to me. Don't you care? Do you love me? And in response, Jesus says in verse 39, he got up and he rebuked the winds and the waves, and he said, "Quiet, be still." Now, this isn't Jesus with some sort of clever machine that makes the winds and the waves be still. Notice really carefully, it's with his words. The power of his words are there to make the winds and the waves still. And you'll see that pretty quickly afterwards, then the wind and the wave died down completely, and it was calm. But then another question comes, this time from Jesus, not from the disciples. Jesus says to them, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" So what's going on here? The disciples were in this boat, in this crazy storm. Jesus has managed to calm it, and yet they're still afraid, and yet they're still scared. What is happening? Well, you'll see in verse 41, it says, they were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." And I think what's happening here is that the disciples are afraid because they see that Jesus has more power than the storm itself. And it makes them afraid. Who is this? Who is this that has this unmanageable, uncontrollable power that we can't control? Their response to Jesus is that they are afraid. And I wonder for us tonight, when everything is going wrong, I wonder if we think that God is asleep, or that he just doesn't seem to be around, or that he doesn't seem to be aware of little old me, wherever you're living tonight. But I want us to stop and pause and look at this passage and ask ourselves, yes, we're in the same storm, but which boat are you in? You see, they're in a boat with Jesus. They're in a boat with the one who is more powerful than the storm itself. And I'd like to suggest to you tonight that whatever storm you're in, whatever storm at all, you can come to know Jesus, and he is more powerful than that storm. I'm not saying that he will calm everything in your life. I don't think it goes as far as that. But I can say that from the age of 7 to the ripe age of 42, I have known him as my rock and my fortress, and as the one in whom I can hide and find refuge. And there are many storms going on right now, aren't there? In recent weeks and months, there's been news of sexual abuse in the church and in parachurch organizations. And I must admit, speaking into this topic tonight, I feel deep uncertainty. But I want to encourage you and invite you to step into the boat with Jesus this evening, because he is more powerful than that storm. So thanks so much for listening. I'd love to invite your questions. Please send them in wherever you are this evening.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nate. It's time for a live Q&A. So if you've got questions, please do send them in to the code on screen. Christine, do you want to line us up with the first question?
Awesome. Okay. Everyone's starting to like, so all of them are shifting up and down. If God is more powerful than the storm that we are in, why doesn't he stop them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I knew preparing for this, somebody would ask that question. And I guess in some ways, I almost didn't want to use that passage because it potentially looks like I'm saying Jesus will calm all of our storms. So why doesn't he stop it? Well, I think we look back to the kind of God he is and how he's made this world. He's made us with autonomy and freedom to live our lives as we choose to. He's not made us as robots. And I think if he was to stop all of the storms in our life, it completely changes the dynamics of who he is and who we are as human beings. Saying that, Jesus came to this world to die for us, and it talks in the Bible about Jesus returning again one day. And when he does, it talks about Jesus bringing real justice. And Christians believe in something called the new heaven and the new earth. And that's a place where there will be no more crying, no more suffering, and no more tears. And we really look forward to that. And so, although maybe the storms aren't completely calmed now, we do look forward to a place where there are no more suffering, no more tears, and no more crying. But I think what I'm saying to you tonight is, in the storm, trust the one who's more powerful than it. And he will help you through whatever storm it is you're going through.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nate. So the next question we've got on Slido is, I feel so alone and worried about my life at the minute. How can I trust God when I can't see any way out of this situation?
Yeah, and I think loneliness is such a problem in the pandemic, isn't it? You know, it's not necessarily about being alone. You can have people around you, but still be lonely. And I think one of the problems we really have is not just personal loneliness, but societal loneliness as well. So do I even fit in the Canterbury Events Week because I don't live in Canterbury anymore? Am I really part of what's going on there? Am I really on my course? So I think, first of all, it's worth really recognising this huge problem of loneliness that is one of the kind of silent killers of the pandemic, isn't it? And I think back to our would you rather, I do think it's about daily trusting in God, asking him to provide for you today, whether that's friends or company. I think there's something really important about reaching out to God and being honest and saying, I just hate this, I can't do this anymore. But then also reaching out to a friend and saying, I'm really struggling, would you chat with me? But I think because God is not just a distant, far off God, he lives within people who want to follow him. You can ask God to live within you. And that does make a massive difference to your life.
Oh, well, okay. Does God have a plan for everyone, even if you're not a Christian?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I guess God's plan is that we know him, we love our neighbours, we live well for him in this universe. So I would say, does God have a plan if we don't know him? I mean, that kind of general plan for people that, you know, I love my husband well, I love my kids well, I live well. That would be a general plan, I think. And I guess I just want to ask, why would you not want to know him if he is the kind of God that makes good plans for people? Why would you not want to walk alongside him and listen to him in that? Because I think the opposite is quite frightening, being completely alone in this world with no plan and no guide. Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks. So the next question, how can you be so certain about something that you can't even see? It seems a bit like an oxymoron.
And also just say thanks so much. If you've got comments on answers to this, please pop them in the chat like Luke the Vegan just has done. We'd love to hear what you think as well, not just what Nate thinks. Sorry, do you mind saying that question again?
Yeah, of course. So how can you be so certain about something you can't even see? It seems a bit like an oxymoron.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's partly why, you know, I wanted to tell you a bit about my story of how I felt real deep uncertainty as a child growing up. But also it's really important to me that you see the person of Jesus Christ. So as you read the Gospels, you see that Jesus was a man, he was a human, a person, and he is therefore tangible. And through seeing Jesus and how he interacts with people, you get to know him as a person. And then as you get to know him as a person, you find out about what God is like. So I would say that actually, if you've not really looked at Jesus and the way he interacts with people throughout the Gospels, then yeah, it's going to be hard, isn't it, to know who God actually is. But as you do that, you just see this most incredible person, and you're warm to him, and you're just surprised and intrigued by the way he does stuff. So yeah, I would look at Jesus and see what that says to you.
The Bible says as Christians we will face persecution, and that's really scary. How can I step into Christianity with that uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if I'm honest, like, people are gonna face persecution everywhere, right? They're gonna face suffering, persecution, hardships. And so for me, like, again, growing up, my dad hated Christianity. And so whenever we talked with him, he would just completely slag off Christianity. And that was difficult as a teenager, hearing that. But I guess you do that as a Christian, knowing that you have this counselor, the Holy Spirit, living within you, who helps you. You know, my friends that aren't Christians, they face suffering and persecution too. I mean, it might be different, but for some of them, it is because of what they believe. And I guess the difference is knowing that there's someone with you as you do face that suffering and that persecution. Yeah.
Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks. So the next one, if God has a plan, then why am I going through so much suffering? Is it just God's plan for me to have a life of suffering and mental health?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, as Luke says, thanks, Luke, 20% of people say that the pandemic has made their mental health worse. So it's been tough, hasn't it? Really, really tough. You know, I struggled with post-traumatic stress after the birth of both of my children. And some of those feelings of kind of hyper-awareness, hyper-vigilance have come back in lockdown. So it's a nightmare for me because I'm kind of reliving some of those things again. So firstly, I just want to say, for those that are feeling like their mental health is worse, you know, there are many people feeling like that. And this is an awful, awful situation. Again, we've never experienced anything like this, have we? So why does God allow suffering? And does he love us? Does he care? Like the disciples are asking, where are you in the midst of this? I think there's really interesting parallels between this story in Mark's Gospel and in the story of Jonah. I don't know if you know the story of Jonah, but it's a story of a massive whale. And in this story, you see Jonah being swallowed by a whale, and you see this terrible situation. And in Matthew, it talks about Jesus being Jonah. And in the boat, when they're in the boat in Mark 4, you see that actually Jesus is offering himself to them. And by Jesus dying on the cross, we see Jesus offering himself in the midst of suffering. So I'd like to say to you that I don't know why God allows suffering. I know that it's not the way it should be. It's not the way it will be. And I don't know why God allows it, but I do know that in the midst of this suffering, it's not that Jesus needs to be thrown out of the boat, but actually Jesus dies for us. So back to the Jonah story, all the sailors are in a storm and they say, what's going on? Maybe one of us has done wrong against God, throw us out of the boat and everything would be all right. But in the Mark story, which one is it that gets thrown out of the boat? Well, when Jesus dies on the cross, it's like him being thrown out of the boat for us to make everything right. So I don't know why God allows suffering. It's a massive question, but I do know that he has done everything possible to rescue us in this suffering and to make the world right one day. So I just invite you to look at what he's done for you on the cross, and we'll look at that more over the next few nights.
Thank you. Yeah, and finally, will nothing be uncertain again if I follow Jesus?
I think we're always going to face uncertainty, aren't we? But I think whereas Jim Dickinson says the only thing that's certain is uncertainty, I think as Christians we can live in an uncertain world knowing this rock and this fortress, knowing this one that is more powerful than the storm itself. So I'm not saying that God would take away the uncertainty from our life at all. It's more in the middle of the storm. We choose to climb into the boat with Jesus and we trust in him as the one who's more powerful than that. And if you've not done that, tonight is a brilliant opportunity on your own, probably, just to sit and ask him, you know, Jesus, can I climb into the boat with you? Can I trust you in the midst of the storm?
Yeah. Thank you, Nay. That was really wonderful. And fortunately, that's all the time we have for Q&A. But if you do want to get in touch with us, or if you have more questions, or you just need someone to talk things through, we have a follow-up form in the description, and you can get into touch with us through our social media. That is Real Canterbury at Real Canterbury 2021, and for Instagram, and for Facebook, Real Canterbury 2021. Yeah. Awesome.
So, before we close, I'm sure you've all been waiting for the news. Who's won the Just Eat voucher this evening? So the task was, guess how many masks were in the jar. I was uncertain, is on theme, about how many masks were in there. Christine, how many do you think were in that jar?
I think I'm going to go with 38. I don't know. Just pull it out of a hat right now.
I also thought it'd be quite a high number. The
Yeah.
correct answer was 14.
No way.
There's only 14 masks in that jar. So
Wow.
let's announce the winner. Drum roll, please.
Sorry, that was a terrible drum roll.
The winner is, hopefully it'll come up, Shamtastics.
Ooh.
So congratulations. Spend your £20 Just Eat voucher wisely. I think I'd probably go for, I don't know what I'd go for, maybe a Domino's?
I don't know. But that's a lot of McDonald's burger from Just Eat. I'm just saying.
A lot of McDonald's.
It is a lot. You can buy it for the entire house. But yeah. Awesome. Congrats. I love your Instagram handle, by the way. And so I'm really hoping you guys are enjoying this week so far. And there are plenty of ways you can get in touch with us and lots of opportunities coming up. One of which is the Buddy Scheme, where we pair you up with, where we pair you up with one of the Christian Union members, and you can talk to them in detail, and you can ask the big questions. You just want coffee when it's legal to go and get coffee. You can go get coffee and, I don't know, read a book. So many opportunities. So that is the Buddy Scheme.
Another way you can stay in touch with us is the Alpha Course. So maybe this week you've heard things that are stirring questions and thoughts and you want to find out more. Well, after this week, each week we're running an Alpha Course where we'll spend some time in a part of the Bible and you have a chance to ask all the questions you want to ask and find out a bit more about the Christian faith and what it means for you. So that's a great thing to do if you want to get in touch afterwards.
Yeah. And then again, if you just want to get in touch with us, the follow-up forms and the socials are wide open, and we will love to hear from you. Follow-up forms links in the description. Socials have just popped up on the screen. So you just want to have a talk, ask the big questions, come get in touch. We will love to hear from you.
Brilliant. Well, that's all we've got time for this evening. So thank you for coming along, and we'll see you again hopefully tomorrow evening.
Yeah. Bye.